Oh, hello. Welcome once again to Speakeasy with Paul F. Tompkins. I am still Paul F. Tompkins, and my guest this time, he is the creator of such things as Community on NBC, and a million billion other things that we're going to talk about. You know it's true.
I created a little thing in my pants just while you're...
No one can see you yet.
Okay, can you see like my shoulder?
Is it cool if I just talk directly into the camera while I interview you?
I'm used to this because my wife has Asperger's.
Please say hello. On that note, please say hello to Dan Harmon. Dan, thank you so much for being here.
Hello. Oh.
Yeah, we get to drink too. How long did you attend college?
About a semester and a half.
Me too.
I stayed just long enough that my mom had to pay for another semester.
Right.
I remember telling her when I dropped out on a payphone in a bar, and her being really bummed out about that, justifiably. It was like, you couldn't have known you were going to drop out after one semester. You just needed that half semester to...
And you probably did know, right?
I had a sneaking suspicion.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was getting like D's in English, and I wanted to be a writer, so...
But did you feel like there was nothing there for you? You felt like the things that you wanted to learn, you were not learning in college, or?
It's the same old story. I spent, Judge Reinhold in Fast Times monologue about, I spent all of those years being told the goal was to get into college. That was the big goal. And then once you get into college, you're immediately dropped from the kindergarten plus world of high school where everyone's telling you what to do and there's a security guard asking you where you're going. All of a sudden you're sort of an adult. If no one's getting you out of bed and dragging you to class. No one's telling you, where were you yesterday? So if you want to fail, you can absolutely fail. And so I immediately leapt into failure, which was never an option. I was becoming really interested in comedy. There was a stand-up club right down the street, and I started hanging out with those unsavory types.
When you go to college, you start hanging out at comedy clubs. What comedy club were you hanging out at?
It was a place are you from Chicago? Are you?
No, Philadelphia.
Oh, okay. Not Chicago, huh?
No.
Okay, suit yourself. It was Milwaukee, and I did... There was a tourist bar. It was called the Safe House. There was a secret door that you would go in. It was a James Bond spy-themed, drinking place.
Really? Is it still there?
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
And they were doing comedy there?
Why not? It was like karaoke machines were still kind of new.
Was this like around the 80s, like late 80s?
Well, it would have been very early 90s.
Okay, so it was still,
There's only 10 numbers in a decade. Very early as opposed to early. I don't know why. So 91.
No, but here's why it does make a difference, because that comedy boom that happened in the late 80s,
yes.
The early 90s, the very early 90s
yes.
is when it all fizzled out.
It all crashed.
But there was still like the idea of, it was the end of, you can just do comedy anywhere.
Yep.
We'll just stick a microphone any place.
Well, it was right before karaoke. Karaoke just spread. If you looked at a petri dish, it was like stand-up went whoosh, and then like at the rim was that Punchline movie with Sally Fields and Tom Hanks. And then that's when karaoke started growing from the center of that and growing on the stand-up clubs, because any place that had an open mic, it's like a karaoke guy could come in and go, look, right there. And the guy's like, oh, okay. And all of a sudden, everybody's way more interested in karaoke than open mic, because when you do karaoke, it's the same people getting up there, but now they have an act.
Did you start, so when you started performing, did you see that as
I never stopped, baby.
When you first began performing, did you see it as an entree into writing?
I don't know where I got this, because my dad wasn't a writer or an actor, so I don't know where I got this weird dichotomy in my head, but I always thought of acting as something that I really loved doing but wasn't allowed to do or say that I wanted to do for a living. I think, that's a reasonable, if you're growing up in Wisconsin, it's like, that's just nonsense. Whereas writing it felt like a worthwhile reasonable thing. When I told people as a kid that I wanted to be a writer when I grew up, I didn't feel like I was saying I want to be a princess or an astronaut. You know, I felt like I was saying a real job because I could see it on TV. I was a much less charismatic person before I started getting on stage and kind of like just trying to get people to laugh at me. That actually taught me how to talk to people and make occasional eye contact, whereas before that I was truly like beyond Ali Sheedy and Breakfast Club, just a cocoon of dandruff and long sweater sleeves, kind of like those GoBot rock lords, just transformed into a pile of laundry so that no one would pick on me.
Were you aware of a change, of it getting easier to talk to people, of it getting easier to just relate to people and make occasional eye contact?
For me, it was night and day. It was I just had to do basic improv training. It was that I got through this franchise called Comedy Sports. So I think they have one in LA still.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was started in Milwaukee. Dick Chudnow started it in Milwaukee, and then they had a high school league. So I was 15 years old. I went from not understanding anything about how to, just open my mouth when I talked, and I understand that that every time I feel like I have to put a big asterisk on this guy. I understand that I'm not Paul Reiser like by comparison, but I'm saying you have to picture like a person that's just like a monster, and then now you can understand some of what I'm saying.
But a benign monster.
Right. I don't know about that. I probably hated myself and everybody involved.
Like a Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah, that's good.
Keeps to himself.
But really contemptuous. Yeah.
Don't poke him.
Yeah.
Right?
And also takes his work very seriously for someone who doesn't talk to anybody.
Well, you gotta have something.
Yeah.
Right?
This dungeon I'm designing is more important than English class. Wait till they all go through it and I tell them that they fell into a pit, then they'll learn.
Is this the Phantom talking?
Yeah. It's a friend of mine who's a Phantom designed dungeons. Anyways, it was the basic improv training because you just had a 25-year-old guy teaching you for the first time to hold your feet still, like grab, get up on stage, and you have to try to. Thinking of it like a writing exercise is what allowed me to get up on stage. So you say okay, this exercise is called 2 lines. This person enters from the left, this person enters from the right. You have to, in 2 lines, establish your identities, your location, your circumstances, whatever theater exercise it is. Okay, this is writing, but I'm writing on the spot, and then I have to somehow communicate this to an audience. Right. So that was the excuse I was able to give myself to get up on stage, which was a pornographic, pretentious, presumptuous activity.
It was beyond your experience. You didn't know anybody who was a performer.
Yeah, nobody ever said this is what you do when you talk to people.
It was not mentioned as a job that a person could have.
Right, or even an activity that a person could do. My family didn't even play charades. We just we played board games maybe, but we weren't cut from that cloth. We didn't.
Not demonstrative people.
Yeah, we were, but that's what we called life. Looking back on it, that was just acting too. You throw a plate because no one loves you, and you don't want to clean your room. And all the doors had fist holes and at different heights. Right, Daniel, 6th birthday. Oh, his first little fist hole in the door. We did have shitty doors. I remember. There was so many door punching in my house.
By everyone or just you?
Everyone, really, except Mom. That's not ladylike.
Yeah. A lady never punches a door.
You gotta kick my brother while he's punching the door. That's what a lady does.
Are you still a door puncher? Are you still?
No. I haven't punched a wall or a door since I was in my 20s. It hurts your knuckles.
It really does. And that's the thing people don't want you to know about door punching.
Big plaster and the military balsa wood complex.
That's right.
They all profit from these tantrums that we throw in our 20s. And they tell you, keep doing it in your 30s. It's like those old doctors and cigarette commercials. It's all bullshit.
Before Community, you were involved in a number of really
unsuccessful robberies.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I said it.
Terrible.
Really unsuccessful.
I just liked the feeling of pantyhose on my face. I was just getting like a boner from it.
First of all, it feels great.
I was always jealous of bank robbers. I didn't need money.
Before Community, you had a lot of really interesting stuff that you had done. One of my favorite things was Acceptable TV, which ran on VH1, which and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like it came out of the idea of Channel 101, which was a thing that you and Rob Schraub started. You guys were a little frustrated that you weren't getting stuff on the air. You guys had created Heat, Vision, and Jack, that crazy pilot with Owen Wilson and Jack Black with the talking motorcycle.
Right.
And like really inventive, creative stuff, and not getting anywhere at the time within the industry. And so Channel 101 was this answer to the technology being very accessible,
right?
And you guys wanting to do stuff,
right.
And so you would make your own shorts. And then, when did it turn into this thing where you invited other people to do it and sort of compete against each other?
Everyone else invited themselves. Mm-hmm. Rob and I had to make stuff for each other with these little cameras, and we would have parties where we would make up excuses to, well, when you come to this party, you have to bring a movie about Batman that you made. Like, yeah, it doesn't matter what it is. Or when you come to this party, you have to bring your best guess at what Jaws 4 is about. Mm-hmm. That was the actual origin of all of it. That's an actual one. We were sitting at lunch and we said, we realized that no one at the table had seen Jaws 4. Uh-huh. And so we said, well, we're watching it today. Could meet at my place at 3. It's 11 a.m. now. Everybody bring your best guess in video form of what Jaws 4 is, and the winner is the guy who guesses most accurately. So we all made little movies about what's Jaws 4 going to be. Mm-hmm. So we were having these parties like that, and then 4 people doing that became 8 people doing that very quickly, because if there was a 5th person at that 4-person party, they weren't coming empty-handed next time. And
right.
so
right.
the 8 people became 16, became 32. The living room became the biggest living room we could find. My girlfriend at the time had a rich mom, so it was a big living room on Mount Olympus in LA. Like, okay, and that living room was full. It was 3 hours of content at that point, because everybody wanted to do something. If you weren't an actor, you were a director. If you weren't a director, you were doing VFX, and there was too much labor and not enough work. And I compared it at the time to the dumpster behind McDonald's, which has to have a padlock on it. And the reason McDonald's dumpster has to have a padlock on it is because the FDA demands that McDonald's throw away all of its food every 3-5 minutes. And the fact is that McDonald's business, being in fast food, demands them creating this overabundance of food. So if the padlock wasn't on the dumpster, then everybody gets free food. You would just stand behind a McDonald's if you were having a bad day, you didn't have change. Just wait for the filet of fish to go from their hand before it hits the dumpster. Good enough for me. Maybe not good enough for the FDA, not good enough for a litigious-minded corporation, but good enough for me. I fleshed that out way too much.
I'm glad, the more you know.
I was referring at the time as to what became Channel 101 as Rob and I were cutting the padlock on the McDonald's dumpster of actors and writers and stunt coordinators and people with locations, people who just sit around and wait for Albert Brooks to want to make a movie in a library that's not a real library, but they own a library that you can't have as a real library. So their job is to wait. Did someone want to make a movie in a library yet? No, okay, all right. And they wait, and they wait, and they wait. Meantime, that location is just, it's there. Yeah. So LA is just this sort of, there's a lot of absurdity there. So all of those people just, we started making all this stuff. And then it wasn't, I never said, hey, everybody, let's do it. It was everybody saying, can we please do this too? And
then it became, it moved on to, screening rooms. You would go to a theater and you would show all of these. And then there was a competition aspect where the audience could vote on which, the idea was that they were all pilots for potential TV shows. The audience would vote on which ones they wanted to proceed. So you did the show Acceptable TV, which was, to me, a really fascinating and new iteration of sketch, where it's like, hey, this is a funny sketch. What if it were to continue and it had an ongoing storyline?
Well, when you watch Saturday Night Live and the cheerleaders come out,
Yeah.
Will Ferrell and Sherry O'Terry come out and they go, you want it? Yeah, you want it? And everybody goes, holy shit, this is really funny. That was great. That was a great sketch. And then it's just sitting there. And so the next week you're like, well, we still have the outfits. We still have Will Ferrell. Like people loved it. We can have them do different stuff this time. And they come out again, and everybody loves it again. And that's how Coneheads and these franchises happen in sketch comedy. People want more of the stuff that they liked the first time, and yet that also for the comedy snob is the bad part of comedy. But in TV, that's all TV is. You like Knight Rider, here's 100 episodes of it. Right. David Hasselhoff's not gonna take off that jacket. The car's not gonna stop talking. Yeah. So it was really Schraub's idea to take what was essentially just another digital video festival in LA, which was it was exploding. Everybody had a digital video festival overnight because of these cameras. Everywhere there was a flyer or a web post inviting you to a Valentine film festival in Stacy's backyard or in the back room of Improv Olympic. There was just DV festivals everywhere. So Schraub's idea was, okay, we may have felt like we were the first to do this. All of these people feel like they're the first to do it. If we're gonna keep doing this, we should at least distinguish ourselves. So all these people are thinking cinematically, let's think televistically. Not a word.
Sure it is.
Look it up. You can't.
I did it.
Look it up in the Darktionary. That is a word.
That Darktionary?
Yeah, it's a evil dictionary with words like televistically in it.
Eventually you're doing Community, and the whole strange history with that show. This was your first series to actually get picked up, right?
Yeah.
This is...
Unless you count my little opus with you, the Sarah Silverman Program on Comedy Central.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry.
It was.
But Community was you.
Yeah.
This was your because
that was me
Sarah
creating.
Was you and Rob
Sarah, Rob, and I created the Sarah's program, but it was Sarah's show.
Yeah.
Which is why she let me go, because I was not thinking of it as her show. I was thinking of it like my chance to be awesome. Community was my first. As a writer, it was my first successful attempt to get something I wrote shot and on the air. After
the Sarah Silverman Program, being let go from that, which I'm sure was very difficult, everyone was friends, Yeah. And I get the sense though from what you just said that, do you have a different perspective on it now than you did?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I won't say ashamed, because what else was I going to do but be who I was and learn that was a bad way to. That's the closest word I can use. I'm deeply ashamed, deeply regretful of how I interacted with the person whose name was on the show. Her name was the title of the show. Sarah's not a poster child for mental balance or anything, but she's a celebrity and she's funny. It's her show. She had paid her dues. It was time for her to have the show, and she had brought Rob and I on to help her create this thing. In my head, what I was thinking was, and it was all out of deference to her. I was thinking, my job is to make Sarah Silverman like the star she's supposed to be. I'm sorry, like in my twisted balloon animal brain, by not taking her notes, like arguing with her, like pushing back on stuff, I was actually helping her.
Right.
It's a dumb thing. Like so many years later, I'm like, man, if a writer acted like that was working for me, like gone in an instant, because it doesn't even matter if you're talented. There's no time for that. It's just, and also there's more TV to make. So the job is to just churn it out. And if you're right, you're right. And if you're wrong, you're wrong. You don't sit there and argue about whether or not your TV show is perfect, frame by frame. So I learned a million lessons, all summed up in one big lesson, which is don't push back. If someone is above you, especially if they're a creative, if they ask you, do you think this joke is funny, and you don't think it is, then say yes or no. Be honest, but don't slow things down. Don't try to use someone else's project as your big opportunity to be a mad scientist. It doesn't pay off for anybody.
Well, now, when you got the opportunity to be the mad scientist with
Right.
Community, did you feel that you were better prepared then to do that? And what were the things that surprised you when you started that job?
You know what surprised me was the accent on diplomacy over posturing. Like, there's a lot more. All of a sudden, you're at King's Landing. You're not you're not north of the Wall anymore. Where basic cable was like a little more like Glengarry Glen Ross kind of like so and so's from Comedy Central's on the phone, and like you gotta dance for your dinner and argue about a joke and all this stuff. There's none of that really going on from my experience in network TV. It's like these big kingdoms with these big layers of diplomats, and they all have so much more political shit to worry about in this very much larger stakes world, that your show either succeeds or fails, and they'll give you like edicts and decrees, but they don't want to sit on the phone with you and go over every joke in an outline, the way a basic cable suit might. I was shocked by that. I was shocked by the fact that they encouraged holiday episodes. Things that made me love TV. That network TV was like, no, please do a Christmas episode. I was like, what? Comedy Central wouldn't want anyone to do a Christmas episode because then they can't air it around the clock.
Right.
You know? And I was like, wow. I was shocked by the amount of things in network TV that were actually more compatible with the way I thought. It makes sense looking back because I grew up on that medium.
When you were let go from the show, was that something that you saw coming? Was it a gradual thing? Was it a shock to you?
I had said so many times over the first 3 years, you guys can just fire me if you want. Like, people would come to the table reads, and we would finish the table read, and then someone would say, well, you all know who I am, and you know why I'm here. My name is blah, 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 and I do the finances at so-and-so. Now this show, we got a situation here. And it's like all of a sudden I feel like I'm like, what? We have a situation? By your third season, a show is supposed to have a template. And I don't understand how you can make a show like this. Like, you know, the show's over budget and you're not running it right and all this stuff. Now, footnote, the show is never over budget. The show is constantly over budget, but it's never over budget. At the end of every season, because I care about these things, because I'm from Wisconsin, I always check and go, so what's the damage? How much bad did I do? Nothing. You were under. You have a good line producer. You shuffled the money around, you're fine. Under budget. They gave you a budget. They always reduced the budget. You're always under budget. During the season, always over budget. Always a crisis. Always this terrible thing. So I always, in those moments when people would say, you know, these guys would come in, they'd jingle their keychains and they'd wear their wallets on their head, and they don't really do that. But so I would always say to those guys, in those moments, out of shame and Midwestern integrity, I would go, listen, I think we're doing all right. I know that the show doesn't have the ratings that you would like it to, but we are in our third year of not having the ratings you'd like it to. We're in a very tough time slot. I don't know if at this point there's a course correction to do. If you feel that way, I'm just a guy that makes a show for you. That's my job. If the show isn't being made to your liking, then what you have to do is let me go. So I think what they're used to is more of a negotiation. Like, okay, no, we can absolutely do that. And I think, with all due humility, I think that's the reason why TV has the flavor that it does, or traditionally it does. You see it less on basic cable now in our new golden age of TV. But mainstream television has that weird, crazy, we wanted to be this, you can kind of tell we wanted to be this, but we can also kind of tell that someone got nervous about it, pulled it back a little bit. Jamie Farr's gonna wear a dress, but he's not gonna wear a dress. You can feel the course correction happening when you watch mainstream television. Because the people at the very, very top of mainstream television, they didn't grow up watching mainstream television. They don't look at it like going to the opera. That's how I look at it. I look at the images on that magical box as being the only possible escape from a dirty living room and inconsistent friends and parents, laying, is it supine when you're on your tummy? In front of the cathode ray hug, and just letting this formulaic, consistent, beautiful, well-crafted mythology wash over you. I came to LA baptized in that energy and wanting to contribute to it and honor it. But you're talking to people, frankly, and this is the big problem that I have, and what always gets me in trouble, is because I don't mind saying it. You're talking to people who grew up grooming horses, not watching TV. They didn't watch Knight Rider in order to make themselves feel better. They went out to a fucking, I don't even know how these people grew up. I can't even imagine it. I just know that their mom didn't throw their birthday cake at their dad on their 10th birthday.
When you were approached to come back to Community, was that weird?
It was unbelievable, and yet it was somehow I knew it was going to happen.
Did you really?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not psychic, and obviously who could predict that, but I don't know. I don't know what it is.
Did you watch any of that 4th season?
I watched it right before I went to work on the 5th season.
Right. So you can get up to speed on.
I had to know if there
what
was.
What have these characters been up to?
If I thought that there had been a way to not watch it, because I knew no good could come of me watching it.
Yeah.
But also in service of my job as 5th season showrunner, I had to know does somebody in episode 3 say from now on I'm putting a skunk on my head? I have to at least have that person come into the first scene and go that's enough of that, and take it off. So I had to watch it, and it was a really, really strange experience. I was pretty drunk when I watched it.
The whole thing?
Yeah, I mean,
did you watch it all in one?
It was a Sunday
weekend,
afternoon, and I got liquored up because it was
You knew it was going to be difficult.
Yeah. I didn't want to just be angry in front of my fiance and friends. I probably should have just watched it by myself, but I would have.
How many people did you have over to watch it?
Me and McKenna was over, Chris McKenna, who ran season 5 with me. There were a couple other people. You pick up people when you start drinking during the day.
Sure.
If you're going to watch a season of your television show, you're either going to be rude to those people or they're going to be sitting there. There was Lefty and Carl, whoever drove my Uber that day.
And the whole gang from the drawing room.
I mean, that's literally where I was. Yeah. It was the nice thing about it was they did 13 episodes, and it was like season 5. It was off schedule. It was 13 episodes kind of floating in space. They couldn't do a Christmas episode, really. Actually, they did, didn't they? It was sort of timeless and amorphous, and there were only a couple things that really had to be addressed narratively, which were that Joel McHale's character had actually graduated, which I thought was a cool thing, because that had to be done 4th season. Otherwise, what are you doing? You're doing Welcome Back, Kotter. And who wants to do a hit show like that? Pierce left, Chevy Chase's character. So, that actually coincided magically with the actor leaving. So that didn't actually, it was also the right thing for them to do, narratively.
Yeah, I think if the character leaves, you should probably ask the actor to leave as well.
Yeah. And it was gracious of him to go, you know what? Saw a script, character left, I should go.
I don't want to be taking craft service away from other people.
They call him Continuity Chase. He won't cotton to doing things that don't make sense within the reality of the script.
Dan Harmon, thank you so much. And you also have Rick and Morty on Adult Swim.
Yeah.
Animated show.
Check it out.
And you voice one of the characters, do you not?
I voice ancillary characters. Justin Roiland, who created the show with me, does the 2 titular characters. He's amazing. A pair of titular characters.
That does it for this edition of Speakeasy. Please join me again next time where my guest will be a different person. How's Justin doing? Is he okay?
It's fine. I give him a half a tablet during a thunderstorm, and it cools him right out.
I hate change more than just about anything, which is why this is a terrible profession for me, because there's almost no stability. It's always very unnerving to me, any kind of change. I remember when my mom got new living room furniture when I was little, and I burst into tears and told her she was trying to ruin my life.